beautiful in mind. So I'm very happy.
Professor Cash,
Yes.
would our group be able to call dibs to present first?
Oh, wow. Dibs. If you can spell dibs, yes.
Oh, DIBS?
All right, you're first.
Yay! Thank you.
What if Josh doesn't want to go first, though?
He does, though.
Oh,
In in support of Laura getting to her exciting concert on time, I'll be willing to take the
oh, you
bullets.
you have a concert you're going to?
Yeah, after class, I'm going to go see Rush.
Oh my gosh. That threesome still plays together?
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of venue are they at?
They're at the Kia Forum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My gosh.
What's
Gee.
Rush? They're like a rock band, Ernest.
Yeah, they're a rock band from God, it's probably like my era. Think so. Yeah, I think they're all my age. Old. They're Canadian, right? Are they Canadian? Yeah.
They are. Yes, they are.
Yeah. Yeah, their vocalist has a very distinctive voice. Geddy Lee, or no?
Yeah,
That
Geddy
his
Lee.
name?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So I haven't been to a show in the Forum since I've been to the Forum for sports, but I haven't been to a concert there since I saw Carole King and James Taylor. No, I'm kidding. Um, I saw Led Zeppelin there. That was the last show I saw there. All right. Um, Anybody have any questions about what's going to happen tonight? Anybody worried? Okay. Anybody nervous? Anybody have a question for me? Anybody have anything they want to share besides Laura going to Rush? Okay. All right, here are the game rules. Listen carefully, ask a thoughtful question when they're done, or provide constructive uh, response to their presentation. All right. So, team 5, because Laura knew how to spell dibs, is going to get to go first. And that's Laura, Josh, America, Diana, and Brandon. So who is going to share their screen? Laura, is it
Crucial
you in your
part that we
group?
didn't discuss. I can do that.
Okay.
We did. It was you, Josh.
Did we?
I'm just kidding. I was trying to save face for a group.
There's
You discussed
leadership
it
right
without me.
there, America.
All right, I can get us started. So for our case study, we had the higher education component. So we are seeking professors with the RTPC and the tenure track. And then our group mates are listed below. Next slide, please. So we kind of wanted to give you all our working thoughts to begin with. So basically with this case study, there's a current divide between tenure track and RTPC faculty due to tension within culture and current structures in place. So our strategy and experience, we actually have an HR partner in our group, Laura, and then Josh, who's actually faculty himself and was part of a hiring committee for faculty. We had a lot of really great insight to this. So our strategy and engagement is to support addressing the tension by making 2 separate searches so that they have their own purpose, candidate profile, and value proposition. So the purpose of the second tenure track is to deepen research capacity and grant competitiveness, which is research advancement for the university. And the purpose of the second RTPC is to strengthen teaching and curriculum of attending students. They're going to be instructional I can't say that word right now, sustainability and integrity. So we thought it was important to kind of distinguish both factors and to make sure that we know what's different to reduce tension so that they both feel valued and understood. And that way there isn't mixed expectations coming into this position as we are beginning to search. Next slide, please. So some of the things we want to do is highlight the position description. So for the tenure track position, we want an active publication record, high historical impact and scholarship and grant funding for universities. Teaching is a secondary expectation since they're not going to be primarily professors in teaching instruction. They're going to be research professors. That's what we want them to be more experienced in. And then we really want them to advance the university's mission by developing a high research profile and external reputation. Another thing we like to highlight is that they participate in university-wide committees. There's so many of those, but we specifically want them involved in things that have to deal with accreditation policy, and especially things that have to deal with promotion and tenure if the university decides to host any form of university-wide committees in those subjects. Next slide, please. And then for the RTPC position, so they're going to be more focused on instruction. So we really want them to have instructional excellence, mastering a subject, obviously, student advising and support since they are more student facing and then they would for the other one. And they have a practitioner skill set in their priority so that they already know how to really like understand that they can do instruction and put things into practice instead of just doing research. And we want them to also participate in university-wide committees. However, it'd be different. So it'd be RSOs, committees, things like that involve like student life, those type of aspects. We don't really mind if they're not as experienced because we think early career is acceptable for this position as well, since they are going to be mostly focusing on teaching versus the experience of publication and research. Next slide, please. So our search committee is going to be basically constructed in a parallel search. So they're not going to be equal lines. They're going to be lines that go in the same direction, just so we can show institutional commitment to both roles. And we're going to include faculty that are tenure track and RTPC in this search so that they can be involved. And we're going to have one external campus partner from another department that holds a close relationship and understands the roles of both positions. And then it's important for us to bring in students to evaluate since both positions impact institutional quality and advising. Next slide, please. I'll hand it over to Brandon, sorry.
Sweet. Hello, everyone. So for my slide, I was responsible for looking into recruitment strategies. I know we discussed some in the previous class before, but we put 4 that we thought would really be helpful in the sense of incentivizing new hires. And one of the things that we also discussed was being intentional in the hiring process and the timeline of that, just to make sure that all our new hirees are ready to go by the time the fall start date. So one of those things was being hiring during the April-May timeframes. So by the time summer came around, we can train them, we can onboard them, give them the right training, right, make them feel confident, supported, and then also just prepping them so that way they can also, I guess the effects are just going to ultimately translate into student success and, students who are going to get if we're looking at RTCP, right, and them teaching they are going to be able to provide a really good class for the students. And in regards to the tenure track counts, tenure track professors, they'd be ready for that research, but there'd be a huge focus on. But a fall start date, right? The other thing that we also mentioned was the mentorship support. So pairing new hirees with seasoned RTCPs, and depending on what their position is, just pairing them with a seasoned employee who can provide that mentorship support and get them situated, as well as the opportunities for professional development. So some constant professional development opportunities, and also just check-ins, right? There's one thing to provide professional development opportunities, but I think the check-in is very important in regards to creating accountability, making sure that the employee is making sure they're learning throughout this professional development experiences that they're having. And with that, also, we just offer some other recruitment incentives like relocation support. You have your startup research funds for the tenure track hires. We talk about professional development funds that can help them, as well as conference travel supports, and then flexible scheduling where possible. I know that, for example, I'm thinking about like how we've transitioned into online modalities versus like in person. Perhaps later on, folks can potentially choose how many, I guess, what modality they wish to do in the future. And then with that, course development or program development as well. So just some incentives for our new hirees. And then on to the next slide. Yeah, sorry. And then just for marketing strategies for the job, we're thinking about making sure that we can also reach the, have a higher reach when it comes down to folks that can potentially apply to these jobs, nationally speaking, right? And so higher ed jobs, right, is one of the websites that's really well known, the Chronicles of Higher Education and Insider Higher Ed. And as for also looking into doctoral programs and university networks that can pretty much create a pipeline for emerging scholars and professionals. So start building those relationships across different programs, I would say in different places all across the US, I would say, just to make sure that we can keep that diverse and provide opportunities for all different types of hires. And then conferences and professional networking events are also crucial in that sense. So it's direct outreach and relationship building, which I think is very important. You get to meet some amazing people in these conferences. So I think that is one of the great opportunities that we can have in regards to hiring some great candidates. And then LinkedIn, as we all know, super great tool, provides a lot of resources, services, and then also just a broader professional visibility and diverse candidate outreach, while also being able to explore what their experiences are, what they bring to the table as well. As we all know, it's a I would say an online format of what a resume would look like. So it's a great opportunity for employers to know about employees, as well as employees know about their employers. So with that, the last one, faculty-led information sessions. So making sure we can share about institutional culture, position expectations, and faculty perspectives for anyone who's interested in applying to the job. But those would be our marketing strategies. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for bearing with me. I got my wisdom tooth removed early this morning, so we're struggling.
So we next wanted to go through the 5 steps we identified for the application review process, which includes assembling a search committee from people including people outside the department, a variety of teaching and research positions, and then obviously identifying a chair and an admin coordinator from within that search committee. We will be doing the initial screening, including determining the criteria for each of the positions and doing something somewhat like official and written down in terms of like creating a rubric, what our requirements are, pulling those from job descriptions, so that everyone's reading from the same hymn book and identifying like these are the criteria we're using to evaluate the people. Those criteria would include things like eligibility, proven research impact, primarily for the tenure track position, history of attracting grant funding, teaching experience, and that sort of thing. We will have structured Zoom interviews with predetermined questions at this stage. So everyone's going to be sort of asked the same question at this stage and thus evaluated on a consistent criteria. The next stage of the interview process would be in-person or potentially Zoom-based interviews, which would include things like a job talk, a campus visit, and a demonstration to the person of departmental culture, because obviously at this point, at this level, you're selling yourself to a candidate just as much as they're selling themselves to you. We talked a little bit about whether, you know, at this stage in the sort of post-COVID era, many of these interviews have gone back to being in person and campus visits where you're involved, and visiting the campus and visiting the local area. They aren't all doing that. Sometimes some of these positions will have the option. So if you want to come and visit the campus separately, that would be you know, an additional time that we'll schedule for you. There would definitely be a teaching demonstration, which ideally would involve the students potentially who are involved in giving feedback at some point in this interview process so that they can identify sort of what worked and what didn't work in this teaching demonstration. There would also be meetings with adjacent faculty, so people who are in similar teaching positions, departmental administrators, so like the chair and people like that, a panel of students, and probably a one-on-one with each of, or one of the two, the departmental chair and the dean. And then obviously the search committee will give its recommendation to the dean, who then passes it on to the voters.
All right, thank you. So if you've noticed a theme, we are collaborative, supportive, inclusive, and transparent. So we are taking a TCEL approach in terms of the entire process, but especially in communication with departments. So talent-centered education leadership approach as defined by Tran and Kelly. So one example is we're communicating with faculty immediately before the posting is even made public or finalized. So we want them to be part of the process from the very beginning. We want to highlight existing faculty that we are hiring a pair of faculty intended to work together based on the feedback that we've gotten from existing faculty of silos and tension. So we want to help break that down by hiring folks that are intended to work together. So based on their feedback, we're making these decisions to break down those silos in the way that we're hiring. We're also collaborating on identifying the rubric to define that talent and course of action. So we'll have collaboratively defined benchmarks and timelines to hold ourselves accountable for new faculty integration. And then we'll also include key staff and faculty in the search committee and interview panel. So these individuals will also share updates to faculty and be responsible to introduce them, integrate them, onboard them, and make them feel welcome and supported when they come to our campus. Next slide.
Thank you. So for recruitment effectiveness, we would like to analyze the number of applicants per position, the number of qualified applicants, diversity of the applicant pool, where we got the applicants, the source, time to fill, interview to offer ratio, offer acceptance rate, and our candidate withdrawal rate. These metrics, we believe, help determine whether our recruitment strategy is attracting qualified and diverse candidates and whether there are any barriers within our hiring process. We've also identified some long-term success metrics, including faculty retention, department culture and collaboration, student satisfaction, and course demand and registration trends. We believe these metrics would help evaluate whether the hires positively contribute to the department, student experience, and overall institutional success over time. Thank you.
We're hiring if you're interested.
All right, really good. Well done. Questions or comments from the class? Yes, Jasmine.
You had mentioned metrics on making sure that you were getting a diverse candidate pool. So what would that look like to you? Diversity in what capacity?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think for us, we didn't really go into the specifics because it was a hypothetical, but it would determine on a couple different factors, such as the location of the institution, as well as like fellow institutions that would serve as comparables. So we would take a look at that, as well as data from like historical data comparing what has been happening at the institution and what the goals are as far as the future of the institution. So it would just depend on a variety of different factors that would compile our plan to qualify that.
I think another thing that we could look at would be also like student demographics, right? So does our faculty represent the student population that we're serving and or in the community? So that's another one that we could look at. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Also look into the representation that we have, right, in regards to faculty. So I think that would be definitely, yeah. And then what equity gaps as well, how those potential new hires can help us get there.
Thanks, Brandon.
Anyone else? So I thought I have three good things and two quick questions. Not that the questions are bad. I really like the breakdown of silos idea where you did that in a number of ways. The unfortunate thing is when at most, particularly tier one universities, there is a giant wall between tenure track and RTCP faculty or whatever they call the teaching clinical professors. Um, and that's a bummer because in most institutions there's more RTCP faculty than there are tenure track. So any way to bring them together and get them to work together would be great. So I like that a lot. I thought the metrics were great. I shouldn't say this out loud because we're being recorded, but I'll do it anyway. I when I chaired search committees, I had faculty say, "Well, we should be really happy we have 50 applicants," and I'd go, "Yeah, but 30 of them are white dudes. This isn't really what we're looking for as another white guy." And how many of them are actually qualified? Very few times. Drilling down is important. So good on that. Really like the idea of faculty-led info sessions as well. That's really important. So I have one wondering, why would you have an outside person sit on the committee?
I can add that.
Yeah.
So basically it's just to have more insight and to have like kind of a diversity and unbiased perspective in the committee.
Okay, somebody not invested in the institution. Okay, that's interesting. I haven't experienced that, but that when I read that and then I heard you say it, I thought, oh, okay, huh. All right, thank you. All right, great job. Super, super good. All right, now we're going to go to the first K-12 team, Edwin, Sage, Alyssa, and Megan. So one of the three, I know Alyssa's not here. So one of the three of you is going to have to share your screen.
Yes, I can share. Let me do. Okay, you guys will have to tell me if I do this, can you see my little speaker note box or is it hidden?
We can see it.
Does anyone know how to make that work?
Oh, those are great graphics.
Yeah, you instead of sharing like the entire screen, just share specifically the tab.
Okay. Let's see if this works instead. Sorry. Now, okay, is that better?
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. So I will get us started in this presentation by myself, Alyssa, Edwin, and Megan. We will present a plan to achieve our district goals of staffing all certificated and classified positions with qualified candidates by July 1st of 2026 and establishing a sustainable recruitment pipeline for future years. And as Dr. Cash said, Alyssa isn't here tonight, so we split up her slides amongst us. The challenge before us, why we must fight on. So we looked at this idea of how we can't just randomly put together different hiring ideas, and instead it needs to be kind of a more specified district-wide approach to ensure consistency and to ensure that we have quality, effective hires across all areas. And our three critical staffing areas that we need to look into include administration, teachers, and classified staff. So the importance is, even though teachers are the ones who are student facing, administrators and classified staff directly set the conditions to ensure that students have the opportunity to be successful. So it is important to have consistent hiring practices and experts who kind of know how to do these things in the right way for our students. And where will we look for talent? So for administrators, we would look more into programs that demonstrate leadership capacity. So we would look for teachers that might show leadership capacity to hire from within. We would look to admin job shadowing and other mentorship programs. We would look into our internal transfer pool and different professional associations for admin, likely the ACSA. And if necessary, especially for like superintendency or higher up administrators, we could look to hiring firms and executive recruiters. For teachers, we again could look to our district sponsored aspiring leaders cohort. That kind of Alyssa has something similar in her school district where it's kind of a bunch of different educators who want to get to the next step. So the aspiring leaders cohort for teachers might look like classified staff and other individuals who don't yet hold a teaching position. We would look to our transfer pool and again, professional associations, this time likely the CTA. We would recruit para-educators and substitutes into credential programs, notably the effective ones. And we would look to teacher preparation programs. And then for classified staff, we would again look to our aspiring leaders cohort, our transfer pool, and professional associations. We would advertise at county employment centers, and we would look to our community college partners for that aspect as well. And next we have Megan.
Okay, great. So thinking about how we advertise for these roles, marketing for open roles goes beyond just posting on the company website. Strategic placement of job applications can lead to a higher reach in applicant count. So companies should be proactively posting through high visibility job sites like EdJoin and LinkedIn. Partnerships with universities, local organizations, and school communities can help build job pipelines with qualified applicants who have gotten specialized education that fits vacant roles. And then thinking about social media campaigns, which can also provide first-hand experience for why employees like to work there and also allow them to extend information directly to their networks. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Very good. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. Job fairs allow hiring managers to further increase their applicant pool by inviting professionals who are actively looking to apply. So thinking about graduate education and administrator credential fairs, targeting those who want to be in leadership roles, college and TEP fairs that will target new teachers and young professionals who can work in entry-level staff roles, and then local community college fairs for classified staff that target those who are looking for stable employment and education, but may not necessarily want to be teachers or in administrative roles. And then thinking about who we contact for leads, referrals and partnerships can strengthen pipelines, since those involved can speak to the internal culture of the organization. Across the board, we encourage employees to reach out to their personal and professional networks for candidates. So when we're looking for administrators, thinking about reaching out to district office leaders, superintendents, and professional networks. For teachers, reaching out to education professors, student teaching coordinators, department chairs, and partnerships with student teaching programs. And then for classified staff, looking at workforce development agencies, community colleges, transportation training, and other credential providers. And then I'll pass it over to Edwin.
Thank you, Megan. Then another thing we were thinking about is reaching college and credential students. So building a strong pipeline starts long before we kind of do the looking for candidates and begin actively applying for jobs. So if we want to recruit high quality educators and future leaders, we need to engage them while they're still completing their credential degree program, and also find a partnership to lead them to our district. But not only that, find ways for employees to also grow with this partnership. So we would, one way we're thinking about is rather than relying on a single recruitment event, we're trying to maintain an ongoing engagement and communication. So for teachers, this could mean monthly recruitment, emails, virtual meeting with our district events, classroom presentation, social media campaigns could work. This university partnership was something that we felt like discussed more for, again, the inflow and outflow in terms of growth. These partnerships are important because they allow to build relationships with future educators early. So this can be seen by hosting student-teacher events, offering internships, developing residency programs, supporting paraprofessionals who want to earn their teaching credential or admin credential, and we support these direct pathways to our district. So for admin and classified, this might look as well as targeted outreach to these credential programs, graduate programs, and community college career fairs to help connect with candidates who already are preparing for leadership and specialized goals. And so the goal is to establish that our district as a destination employer before candidates begin their job search. So this is creating a sustainable pipeline. Next slide, please. So then also recruitment, this is the process that we're trying to build for our applicants, is also creating a positive experience for the hiring process so that we can set that standard and expectation, because multiple candidates have multiple opportunities for them in the district. So it's timely and necessary that we are intentional in the process. So if our process is slow, unclear, or sometimes difficult to navigate, then we may risk losing that talent individual to another before we even get to the interview stage. So the things that we identified is, one, having clear a timeline so we communicate fully upfront what is expected of them, and also the work needed. So for pre-work for panel expectations for administrator roles. Second, we want to make the decision rather quickly for teachers and classified staff. This is especially important because timely communication can make the difference between going into our district versus another district. We also want to help candidates prepare by sharing interview questions and also when appropriate in advance, so that we're not working on those managing interviewing anxiety and ensuring that they can showcase their knowledge and skills and experiences. And finally, we're looking at trying to make a year-round recruitment effort. So because teacher shortages and unexpected vacancies can occur at any time. So while we're maintaining this continuous outreach to ensure that we have pools of qualified candidates when these opportunities arises, because ultimately what we want to be is respectful and transparent in the hiring process, so that strengthens our district reputation and it improves our ability to attract top talent. Next slide, please. So what, as we've been saying, is we're trying to reduce that friction in the application process and create a more candidate-friendly experience. So we want to position the district as organizing our values, people's times, and respecting applicants and committing to attracting the best employees. So the common barriers that we want to eliminate, one is kind of lengthy applications. So we do this through streamlining the application process. So we're only requesting the essential information during the initial phase. The second one would be the delayed communication. We want to improve communication by actively acknowledging that every applicant, where do they stand in the current process. So as long as we're providing that communication with them, they're not left wondering where they are, where they stand, or should they even apply somewhere else, like to keep that transparent with them. And third, we want to focus on culture misalignment. So we want to do culture alignment in this process. So this helps both the candidate and district determine whether this is a strong fit for the applicant before investing significant time and resources. For classified staff, especially, one was posted by site location instead of abstract pool jobs. I had experience with that. We had 5 site aids, I think, in 1 year. And that was due because it was a pool application. They were looking to be at a different site, but at the same time, because it was pool, and then they were just selected randomly because they said they could be at this. We're at the south side. They kind of wanted it in the north side. Maybe they wanted in the middle, but at the same time, because it's a pool, it created this misalignment, and then we actually had a lot of turnover for that process. So actually having a specific site location can help improve that alignment. And for all groups, having that clear communication timeline reduces that anxiety and again, encourages that transparent and respect for what we are expecting in our district. Next slide, please.
All right. back to me. If we truly want to fight on for talent, our recruitment process can't end when an employee accepts an offer. It must extend into retention and long-term growth. Across all employee groups, we need a compelling value proposition that clearly answers the question, why should talented people choose our district and why choose us? Structured interview processes and clear job expectations can help ensure fairness, consistency, and strong hiring decisions. For teachers, retention pathways, induction support, and opportunities for advancement are essential to keep great educators in our schools. For classified staff, professional growth opportunities such as an aspiring leaders program and a strong benefits message can help us compete in a challenging labor market. Closing these gaps transforms our recruitment process from a transactional one and done event into a long-term talent strategy.
To fight on effectively, we need more than good intentions. We need data that tells us what is working and where we need to improve. A unified dashboard allows us to monitor recruitment success across administrators, teachers, and classified staff using the same framework. Metrics such as applicant volume, time to hire, offer acceptance rates, and source of hire help us understand the strength of our talent pipeline. Candidate satisfaction and quality of hire data ensure that we are not only hiring quickly, but hiring the right people. When we consistently measure outcomes, we can make smarter decisions and invest resources where they have the greatest impact. The biggest takeaway here is to update the dashboard, review it continuously, and adopt the mindset that hiring and retention is not just an HR job, it is an entire team's responsibility.
Awesome.
The fight on mindset is rooted in the continuous improvement. So rather than waiting for staffing shortages to become a crisis, we take a proactive approach by identifying the needs early and monitoring trends throughout the year. Beginning on one day of the school year, we can benchmark staffing needs and use data to guide our recruitment efforts. Regular collaboration between HR, hiring managers, and interview teams ensures our hiring practice remains aligned, responsive, and effective. Equally important is documenting and communicating recruitment practices across the district. This promotes consistency, transparency, and accountability while creating a shared understanding of what successful hiring looks like. So most importantly, every hiring cycle should strengthen the next. So by learning from our data and experiences, we create a self-improvement recruitment system that helps attract, hire, and retain exceptional talent year after year. Our goal is simple: fight on for the talent today so our students have the exceptional educators and staff they deserve tomorrow. When we fight on our talent, we fight on for our student success.
And that's our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job. Can you, can you stop sharing the screen, first of all? Thank you, Sage. Any questions or comments from the class? Ernest.
Uh-oh.
It's not my group, but can I answer? I can help.
Sure, please.
Yeah, answer.
All right,
We're
I will
all a
help.
family
We were
here,
all
so
we are all a K-12 group here. I think, well, for us, we're transparent, but we update our the website, and we update all of the things on EdJoin that goes out for like any MOU. So it's still transparent. But we do keep it updated once it goes out. So it's like a blast to everybody, and then the district will also update on whatever like EdJoin or anything that's on there. So it's transparent, but it does change it does get updated, and it changes constantly because the MOUs change constantly. Right. Right. Mhm. Yeah, so all the MOUs are public for staff, right? So it is the HR assistant soup who's in charge of that, and then his secretary, and then I'm a part of the negotiation team. For us, it's CSCA for classified. And so we are part of with PR, the messaging that goes out. And it's normally done within, I don't know if it's standard. I don't know if that's a standard thing, but for us, it's done within 24 hours that gets sent out.
yeah, it should be within the day for sure.
Thanks for your
That's a best practice for the industry.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help, Erica. That is not yet in something that I am knowledgeable about. So
Thanks, Ernest, for the question. Thoughtful question. I was glad Brandon presented because how many of you have had your wisdom teeth out? Yeah. I didn't know that I would see his shiny, thoughtful, puffy face today. All right. So I have a couple of comments and questions. Really like the barriers you eliminate, that you understand there's a difference between screening and applications, the need for transparent and immediate communication about, hey, you're in our system, we see you. I still am just amazed when I come into systems to provide some support, and I am dealing with HR, and they have no system in place to let applicants know that their application has been received. And so people don't even know. Um, it's fascinating. Um, One comment I would make for all K-12 is if you're going to use teacher prep programs, which you should for finding teachers, always, 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 always look at who goes to those programs. And always seek diverse teacher prep programs. Don't just look at where your student teachers come from. And um, I also like the idea that, which is really fascinating that you guys captured, is this idea of meet the district, which is new and upcoming, which is really, really important and really, really a good way for people to know who you are, for you to meet people as well. So, um, you know, and the last thing I'll say is some ed organizations take advantage of local universities and are actively engaged with them, while other organizations are much more passive. I would really advocate, and it looked like you guys were leaning into that, that you are an active partner with local IHEs. And don't limit yourself to local IHEs, because there are higher ed that have a lot of virtual teacher prep programs that are not maybe within your geographic community, that may have actual people living in your area but attending their classes somewhere far away. So be as creative as you can in engaging with higher ed. Don't just hope that they're going to show up. So uh, good. Let's go to number 2. Karen, George, Salpe, and O'Shea. Who's going to share
Okay,
their
I think
screen?
I'm gonna be the screen sharer.
All right.
Let me get it up. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I will go ahead and get started. Okay, so strategic recruitment and hiring system. Presenting myself, George, O'Shea, and Salpe is not able to be with us tonight, but she was a part of producing our presentation here. So we started by looking at the case study and identifying the problem of practice that we were presented with, which in a nutshell was there were 5 consecutive years of unfilled positions on the first day of school. Students begin the year with substitute teachers, for example, when we have teacher shortages, which is disruptions to instructional continuity, increased workload on existing staff, and the negative impact on organizational culture and student outcomes. So our goal really is a fully staffed organization on day 1 of the 26-27 school year, but also not make it just a 1-year project, but making sure that what we develop is able to continue from year to year as we recruit. Our strategic framework here that we're looking at, our guiding principles, is to be proactive rather than reactive in hiring. So having a plan and pursuing that. Continuous talent pipeline development. So within our district, be committed to developing our own people for whatever is next in their career path. Employer branding and culture building. Really selling our district and our culture of our schools, because that's going to make us a more desirable place to work. Have candidate-centered recruitment, data-driven decision-making as we're going through the process, and then making sure we have equity and diversity in our hiring. When we go in then to administrators, so how we'll look for leaders, again, like I mentioned before, that internal leadership pipeline, really developing when we see talent coming to our schools, making sure we are identifying that and giving those leadership opportunities to develop talent, looking at our current assistant principals and district leaders, professional leadership organizations, and our superintendent and principal network in the area. And then we have our general advertisement there, EdJoin and LinkedIn, but then the organizations, Association Superintendent, AXA, and so on. Job fairs, we have AXA Leadership Summit, USC Rossier Career Events, and then tapping into the local university leadership programs. And then we would follow the lead again from the experience of our current principals, our leadership professors, and district partners. And so again, the big why in this is because we know that high quality leaders are often recruited through professional networks. So just advertising positions doesn't necessarily produce the high quality talent. It's really tapping into those networks that we have built through our current leaderships and programs.
Some of the recruitment plans that we had put for teachers, where we look, we went quite literal with thinking local, USC, CLA, CSUN, LMU, TFA and residency programs. But as Dr. Cash just mentioned, you can definitely think virtually as well to get a more national audience. Strategy, student to teacher pipelines, early contracts is a big one. Personally, having dealt with hiring in LA, and contracts that get signed on much later in the hiring process makes things a lot less smooth for transition into the workplace, and doesn't allow you to start the year with everybody fully contracted. University partnerships and education consulting companies, which I have found particularly helpful when dealing with the private and independent school space. Advertising, all the good old classics, LinkedIn, EdJoin, Indeed, Glassdoor. advertising in college and university resource pages and job fairs. I've particularly found success. I've been hired a couple times out of job fairs. Particularly, I think USC had a diversity one where I got a job at Campbell Hall. And then also the local district portal. Again, I just kind of spoke on job fairs and obviously trying to be as diverse and inclusive as possible. And then retention and recruitment, teacher referral programs, mentoring and induction support. A lot of teachers express that mentoring programs, particularly in their first year in a workplace, and if it is their first year teaching, are incredibly helpful. So wanting to focus more on that. Competitive salary and benefits. Again, a lot of teachers also mention professional development opportunities. I feel like schools, there's a little bit of a lack of transparency there because they say they want to continue to develop their teachers, but it's hard to retain if you're not actually helping them in those areas, and then establishing a positive school culture.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yes. Sorry, you guys hear music in the background. I'm at a graduation right now, but I'll go ahead and talk about the recruitment plan for classified staff. But like before I discuss like recruitment of any sort, I was like, I want to let you guys know why it's important to understand why classified staff are essential to the success of a school system. While teachers lead instruction and administrators provide leadership, classified staff are often the backbone of the daily school operations. And I see this on a daily basis, being a teacher and still working for after school. Yes, she always on the move, you know. I mean, that's how my mind works. But you know, these positions also like include instructional aides, office technicians, campus supervisors, custodians, food service workers, special education assistants, and expanded learning staff. And on top of that, like you know, bus drivers as well. You know, they support student learning, they build relationships with families. They maintain safe school environments and provide operational stability and strength through school culture. And this is something that I try to really like bring to every, like with my own experience as being a teacher, I really try to make it a point where I get to know all staff from morning all the way to the closing night custodian team. And it's one of the most important things that, you know, this is what's helped me, I guess, like, you know, find success within, as an educator within a school environment. And we could go to the next slide. Thank you. All right, so how will we look for classified staff? When recruiting classified staff, we want to focus on building like strong talent pipelines rather than waiting for like vacancies to occur. And part of that is, you know, like our recruitment efforts will target like individuals who already have like connection to schools and communities. And I think this is like one of the biggest, this is one of like the biggest, let's say, I'll say strategies to actually maintain these classified staff to, you know, provide them the opportunity to become future leaders within the school system and teachers. It's kind of like how I went through the pipeline, being an after school staff first. You know, we also identify like several key positions that school commonly struggle to fill, including instructional aides, office technicians, campus supervisors, custodians, food service workers, bus drivers, and expanded learning staff. And I think this also falls in with like, you know, with the respect to budgets, right? And we're seeing like, especially being in LAUSD right now, I don't know if you guys have heard, but like all the different positions that have been cut out through budget cuts. It's about 500 positions that have yeah, within the last week or last month or so have lost you know, their positions through these budget cuts. You know, and we'll also like focus on these candidate posts because individuals who are already connected to the schools often understand the student needs. And I think that's one of the most important things to see, like a school fully operate to benefit the students, its community, and it's like just its whole workforce. And then we can move on to the next slide. So like looking for classified staff, a lot of this is going to overlap with what O'Shea and Karen have already shared. But, you know, to recruit qualified classified staff, we'll use a combination of job fairs, advertising, and professional networking. From job fairs, we will attend like university career fairs. And I know USC is always providing like quarterly career fairs, such as like other universities. And I think depending on where your school is at, especially the one that we're working with, like I think it's very to be intentional to connect with the local community college, the local universities, and like the local Cal States if they're in the area, right? You know, our advertising strategy will also like include posting positions on EDUE and Indeed, district websites, and other online recruitment platforms like LinkedIn. We'll also utilize a community-based recruitment through like libraries, community centers, faith-based organizations, and neighborhood councils to reach local candidates. This is something that I've been doing ever since I joined the neighborhood council here in Echo Park. I've been over here trying to recruit staff, like especially like the individuals that come that they speak a big game when it's like, oh, I'm here for the community. I was like, all right, cool. Let's start by helping out the future generations of this community. And it's one way that I go and try to put like my little political movement, or really try to do this out of the grassroots style of recruiting individuals. And then we could go to the next slide. Now, communicating with the college students and TEP candidates, I think is very important, right? A critical part of the recruitment strategy is building these relationships with future talent. And we want to engage college students and teacher education program candidates long before they enter the workforce. And this also falls into getting introduced to Bettina Love last year and becoming an abolitionist teacher. I think this is very important for very marginalized communities to have individuals that are from the community, for the community, and by the community to come back and teach in the community. And this is something that I've taken very dear to my heart and find individuals, because from my own experience, growing up here in LA, going to Belmont and everything, I wasn't taught ever to come back and teach in my community. I accidentally became a teacher, and I can honestly say that with my experiences coming in. But it's one of the greatest outcomes that I think I could have ever given myself, just by coming back and getting that part-time job in after school, and then becoming the educator I am today. And our outreach efforts will include presenting at teacher education program classes, hosting informational sessions, and promoting internships, student teaching placements, and leadership development opportunities. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Dr. Cortez, but he actually helped me do this in a couple of his master of Arts in teaching classes, to come back and speak to candidates that are about to graduate and are going to join the workforce. And if he asks me again, now I'm really going to emphasize in the whole abolitionist teaching and being that educator. So yeah, those are my parts. So thank you.
Okay, and then looking at applicant fit and removing obstacles. So the expectations for our applicants: fast communication, efficient hiring process, competitive compensation, transparency, and clear timelines. So we outlined certain current barriers and what is a possible solution. So the barrier being lengthy applications. So trying to simplify the application process, utilizing ways that people are able to utilize the same information and not go through multiple lengthy applications. Slow response time. So commit to, for example, a 48-hour communication standard, but have a standard that you're going to stick to so people know when to expect that, and also communicate that standard. If you're interviewing or someone's applying for something, let them know the timeline of when they should hear back. Multiple interviews. So streamlining that interview process, maybe partial virtual, partial in person. But even when there are multiple interviews, it's helpful from the very beginning to outline and do a timeline. So that way you're publicizing the different interview commitments throughout the process, so people who are applying for the positions can notate that on their calendars for their availability. Sometimes credential confusion and whether or not people qualify for certain roles. So having that dedicated HR support that can help answer questions to applicants. And then delayed hiring timelines. And then again, starting that recruitment calendar early, setting up those timelines and following them.
I'm in class right now.
And then what's missing? Two things that we looked at: employer branding.
I have a gift for you.
So the district must actively market itself as an employer of choice. So for example, it's not just a job as a teacher or a classified staff or an administrator, it's really joining a community, and that's that school district. So how is that school district marketing itself as an employer? So whether it be through website, through having short video clips on applications, magazines that are available, but maybe employee testimonials, social media recruitment campaigns, recruitment videos, new employee success stories, a website that showcases the culture of the school and the support for their employees. The second area was retention planning. So recruitment and retention have to be integrated. So it's not just hiring staff, but then looking at what are we doing with them once we have them. So really looking at and building those mentoring and induction programs, professional growth opportunities, and then leadership pathways. So really let our employees know that we are a pipeline to leadership. So people who want to grow have opportunities to learn and to be able to do that. Metrics for analyzing the hiring trends on administrators. So looking at time to fill positions, the candidate pool size, the diversity of our applicants, the internal promotion rate, and then looking, into the future. What's our retention after 3 years of hiring?
Some things to consider for teachers: the time it takes to fill the position and the time it takes to transition into full hire. limiting applicants per posting, which I personally hate because I'll go to apply for a job and then it'll say they're no longer accepting applicants, but super helpful during the hiring process to make sure all positions are filled. Consider cost per hire, the hiring process in general. What does it take to bring a teacher on campus, feed them lunch, things as little as that. Survey for feedback on candidates' experiences with hiring processes. So considering teachers' own experiences, considering the teacher's experience as an applicant and how they have gone through various hiring processes and taking that feedback for ourselves for the following year. Evaluate for quality of hire after the candidate's first 6 to 12 months. One mistake I have made is hiring somebody and you don't really check in with them until too deep into the year, and then you realize that it might not be a good fit, but by that point it's too late. You kind of just need to like figure out the rest of the school year and push through. So making sure to check in with them and have a process for that. Considering the first year attrition rate and then thinking about retention rate, not just in general, but also both vertically and horizontally, thinking about grade levels and content areas.
And then examples of how we would use those metrics. So having a recruitment dashboard. The things that we would look at is which recruitment sources produced hires, which universities generated applicants, was our hiring timeline effective, diversity outcomes and retention trends. So again, just because we put a plan together, we need to constantly evaluate it, reflect on it, refine it as needed. So a sample chart of what we could or would build metric, for example, science applicants, looking at our 26-27 result, we were low in the applicant pool, for example. So what is our action going to be for 27-28? Potentially expand our university partnerships. Teacher retention, looking at it after the end of the school year and measuring it every 3 years. 26-27 result, 82% of our teachers were retained. So what's our action for 27-28? Strengthen our mentorship program so that we can get that higher. Bus driver vacancies, a high result of bus driver vacancies. And then maybe promote the district, such as we talked about the branding of the district and the culture of the district, but also look at the incentives. So maybe bus drivers, hey, you can bring your kids to the school district, or we have benefits, or maybe there's a flexible schedule if you're driving in the morning or afternoon. So promoting those kinds of incentives that might attract additional applicants.
Hey guys, sorry about that earlier. I know I was unmuted. A lot of students coming up. But yeah, so as we conclude, our recommendation is centered around creating a proactive and sustainable recruiting system. So like rather than reacting to vacancies when they occur, right? We want to be on top of it, we want to be proactive on this. So first we'll recommend beginning recruitment at least 12 months in advance or before anticipated opening, so before the school year starts in our case. Second, we want to intentionally build talent pipelines for administrators, teachers, and classified staff. We also want districts should invest in employer branding so that candidates view the organization as a destination where they can grow and thrive rather than just a place that's just here to hire them and just use them at their expense. And then we'll continue we'll also recommend to developing strong university partnerships, mentoring recruitment metrics annually, and ensuring that recruitment and retention efforts are connected as part of our comprehensive strategy. And I think one fully takeaway, a fully staffed school system is not the result of luck. It is the outcome of a strategic, data-informed human resource system that continuously develops, attracts, hires, and retains talent. And sometimes that feels very impossible, but it's also very doable if we just put the effort for it. Thank you.
Good job, you guys. Questions or comments from classmates, colleagues?
I have a question.
Sure.
One of the things I guess I always hear from HR regarding us being unable to fill vacancies is that they're always short staffed, right? I feel like I hear that at a lot of places. So, we're coming up with all of these plans and it just has me thinking, what if we're short staffed, right? And we're wanting to do all this strategic planning and all of this preventative stuff, but we don't even have the team to do that. Like, where do we go from there?
Easy. You want to know the answer to that question? So, every system has already in place leaders doing work. If your HR plan relies entirely upon your HR office, it will fail. You have to include site-based leaders throughout the entire process to not only do some of the work, but to provide valuable input on the work that's being done. So, I mean, if you let's say your HR office has an assistant superintendent, a director of classified, a director of certificated, and three administrative executives, one in charge of credentialing, one in charge of benefits, and one in charge of something else. If then you say, okay, so we have a total of 6 people and all 6 of us are responsible for this plan, it'll never happen. When you do a strategic HR plan, you have to be very thoughtful and you got to bring in whomever in your organization is in a position to be able to thoughtfully contribute and participate in the planning and then the work. As a site administrator in the districts that did this work well, I was always involved in our HR strategic planning process. Always. There was never a year that I wasn't involved in either at the front end and then always at the back end evaluating whatever it is that we did. So I believe it's the districts that say, oh, gee, we're all siloed. HR is responsible for all this work. And me and ed services, me and student services, me and business services, we're not involved in that. Good luck, HR. That's not going to work. So there's my long-winded answer to your short question. Any other questions?
Not a question, but one thing I was thinking about with branding is I feel like it's important that it's authentic. I feel like a lot of districts, at least kind of how I view my district, if I saw some of the videos that they make from an outsider's perspective, I would be like, this seems fake. They aren't acknowledging any weaknesses. They're lumping all of like kind of their school sites and programs into one perspective, and it's not acknowledging like the diversity between maybe like the school that I'm at that has a high portion of English language learners and the difference between the majority white middle school. Like it kind of lumps everything together and only portrays what it wants to as an advertising scheme. So how do we make sure that there is some balance and still acknowledging like these are still students who need support. It's not going to be a breeze, regardless of how you put it.
Well, that's why you have to have a very diverse team involved in recruiting and selecting candidates to ensure that the branding is huge, that branding is an accurate reflection because, you hire, I mean, it's the classic thing. Somebody thinks the organization is this, they go to work there, they find out it's that, they're done. See ya. So yeah, it's important. Yeah, Ernest, your hands up. Yep. Thank you for doing that. Luis.
Yeah, I think folks are bringing this up across their presentation is that there's a retention element of this, and it costs way less to what it costs as far as time and resources to retain talent than it is to go then seek talent. And so I think folks are touching on this, but in the specific case study is given is like there's a shortage here. And so what I'm also understanding from the presentations is that there is an intentional approach that is being developed with a cross section of school site staffs so that there can be an intentionality in the way that they're going to recruit again, but at the same time, there's a retention and focus on retention that is also equally as important in this process.
Absolutely correct. Thanks for raising that. Brandy.
I was just going to come off that in the chat. I talked about how I loved how this group pointed out the importance of continuously reflecting on your recruitment strategies, because if you are constantly doing things and not going back and analyzing the data to even see if it worked, then that's probably why those positions are staying open for so long and taking so long to fill. So for example, if, for instance, our district still uses the radio, it's outdated to me, but that could just be me. And, you know, they still want to put it on the radio. And I'm just like, who's going to hear that? So I just think it's really important to go back and actually reflect, look at the data. Is this working? If not, what can we do differently?
All fantastic points. Thank you for sharing that. The one thing I want to emphasize, I've taken a lot of notes on all of these, and I'd rather hear what you guys have to say than me. But one thing I want to say in the K-12 and higher ed, that's a whole nother ball of wax. I don't want to open that can. I'll limit this comment to K-12. I was really happy to see a lot of conversation and work on classified staff. If classified staff often have the greatest impact on students, they are typically the first person a student sees every day, whether it's the bus driver or somebody that's in food services, or it's a supervisor at the front of the school helping them cross the street, or it's somebody at the drop-off, whatever it is, it's typically a classified person. And they have such an incredible impact on how a student feels about themselves, about the day, about the place they're at. And K-12 has done a horrible job in just approaching that. And all of you have talked about classified staff, and I'm really, really happy to see that. All right, so next team, Charity, Erica, Arlene, and Ashley.
I can share my screen.
Great, thank you. Ha, yeah. I can remember the head custodian's name at my junior high school. I can only remember one junior high teacher, but that custodian changed my life. So, sorry. Ashley, your team's up.
You guys ready? Okay. So we're excited to present our recruitment and hiring plan for 2026-27 school year. I had the pleasure of working with Ashley, Arlene, and Charity. As educational leaders, one of our most important responsibilities is ensuring that every student has access to highly qualified educators and staff from the very first day of school. And so we know that organizational success is driven by the people who do the work. So this means the leaders who set the vision, the teachers who deliver the instruction, and classified staff who keep our systems running efficiently. Our case study presents a significant challenge. So for the past 5 years, the district has been unable to fully staff all positions before the first day of school, and some students have begun the year with a substitute teacher instead of a credentialed classroom teacher. The superintendent has made it clear that this is a pattern that must end for this next school year. So we're going to share a comprehensive recruitment strategy designed to attract, hire, and retain high-quality administrators, teachers, and classified staff. Our plan focuses on where and how we recruit, how we remove the barriers, and how we create a candidate-centered hiring experience and process. Our goal is simple. It's to make sure that every position is filled with the right person at the right time so that every student can begin the school year with the support that they deserve. So the challenge that we must solve is for the 5 years the district has started with the school with some vacancies. So critical positions include the high school principal, the secondary math and science teachers, elementary special education teachers, bus drivers, and account clerks. So students have experienced a disruption to their learning due to these staffing shortages. And our presentation outlines a proactive data-driven recruitment plan that addresses both the immediate staffing needs and then the long-term workforce of sustainability.
And to carry on, we organize the vacancies based on the 3 major staffing needs. For admin, the key role for admin is principal. This role requires strong instructional leadership, culture building, staff supervision, and the ability to lead change. Because of that, leadership searches often take longer, and the position needs an earlier and more targeted recruitment process. For teachers, we're trying to staff secondary science, secondary math, and elementary school special education. These are high need areas, so we cannot wait for the applicants to come to us. We have to be very active in our outreach through credential programs, teacher prep programs, university partnerships, and referral networks as well. The last position we're staffing, can you go back, Erica? Is for our classified staff. So again, talking about bus drivers, account clerks, these roles, as has been mentioned before, are really vital for the functioning of the organization. A fully staffed district is not only about classroom teachers, but transportation, finance, clerical support, operations. All of these positions affect the day-to-day life of the school. Moving on to the next slide. Thank you. Our posting strategy is intentionally different for each group because different candidates look for jobs in different places. For admin, we are going to really post on LinkedIn, professional association organizations, university administrative credential programs, and obviously executive search firms. The hope is that these platforms will help us reach both active applicants and passive candidates who are may not necessarily be searching, but are looking for the right opportunity. For teachers, especially for math, science, and SPED, we will post on EdJoin, Handshake, university job boards, teacher prep programs, and residency program networks with the hope that they will help us connect with credentialed teachers, early career educators, and candidates who are completing their preparation programs currently. Lastly, for classified staff, we will use Indeed, local community college boards, workforce agencies, community colleges, CDL, which is how bus drivers are often trained or get their certification, clinical certification programs, with the hope that as we get more community-based recruitment strategy, we'll find stronger candidates who are not just searching for traditional education job boards. Lastly, the timing is so crucial. For high need areas, we recommend early contracts, earlier outreach during the non-peak season. So looking around February through April, or actually that's for teachers, but looking at the non-peak season. So in the fall, if we wait until the late spring or summer, we're competing with other districts, which means that we're competing for strong candidates that are also looking for another job. I'm going to pass the mic over to Ashley for job fairs.
Thank you, Charity. So I'll be talking about job fairs and lead sources today. So specifically for admin, association, professional associations would be a good place to post and to look. University leadership showcases, professional networks such as your mentors and superintendents, retired educators, as well as planning for internal candidates. So as folks have said, if there's like an unexpected position they're opening, you want to make sure to plan for those. For teachers, local and university specific job fairs, the National Alliance of Black School Educators Diversity Fairs, teacher education prep programs, current employee referrals, as well as subs as long-term pipelines. For classified staff, local workforce fairs, community college events, transportation specific hiring fairs, military transition programs, as well as employee referrals. So how to engage recently graduated students as well as teacher prep students where to post and to look, social media, such as LinkedIn, making sure that you have marketing and newsletters that's visible and accessible to everyone, campus visits and career centers. So if you have open in-person info sessions as well as virtual, you can also record it and post it. University credentialing programs, student teaching partnerships as well, and making sure that you're offering signing bonuses and incentives. So for example, for my school, we offer a rent stipend because it's really expensive to live in the Bay Area. And then hosting students, student teachers and interns. So across these three categories, the pattern is that you'll need to do consistent outreach, which is going to build the early pipelines and position the district. That means that you're in a employer of choice before candidates even consider other jobs. So what applicants are really looking for are for admin leadership opportunities, collaborative culture, and work-life balance. For teachers, strong instructional leadership, positive school culture, meaningful PD, and supportive onboarding. And for classified staff, growth opportunities, stable employment, respect, and recognition. And so it's really important to make sure that your hiring process fits these applicant expectations. Back to Erica.
So some of the obstacles are process-led, and our application, sometimes applications are too long or communication is slow and candidates don't always get clear information about some timelines and salaries or benefits. So these barriers can cause some really strong candidates to drop off before even the hiring process. What's also missing are some long-term recruitment systems, and so we need to work on that stronger diversity recruitment, growing own pathways, again, utilizing the university partnerships, and just having stronger district branding to actively attract candidates rather than having them just wait to apply. So using the process intentionally and building a pipeline for future educators to work with some of the classified staff. I know for myself, I started as a para and then I've worked my way up. So it's just kind of utilizing that also, because you understand that having that connection with classified staff is really important to kind of see the trajectory on where they can go.
Thank you, Erica. So I'll move into metrics to analyzing hiring trends. So we want to look at metrics across all three categories: admin, teacher, and classified. And the key word we want to look for are patterns, right? We want to see what are patterns in the data that we can fix, that we need to address before we even look at how many applicants we're getting in or how long the timeline is for us to actually onboard applicants, but looking inward and evaluating what we're already doing within our district. So identifying, is there a turnover pattern at certain schools? Are certain sites losing people quicker than others for each of those different positions? And we want to examine what the work environment is, right? And help identify what needs to change in order for us to retain the people that we're bringing in. The other thing we want to look at are demographics and equity. So reviewing turnover trends. Are there underrepresented groups that are turning over more, right? And looking closer to see, again, what environment we're creating, right? What atmosphere we're creating that may be promoting systemic exclusion. Also looking at absence rates, demographic data overall, satisfaction data, to get a complete picture of what is going on, right? Why aren't we keeping people? Where are they going? What can we do to change what we're doing to make sure that our roles are staying filled? Surveys and feedback is another good way. Again, we want to be preventative. That's the biggest kind of piece of looking at surveys and getting feedback, not just exit surveys, right? I feel like a lot of times we get exit surveys, but what about surveys throughout, the first year of employment for candidates, right? What is their experience? What are maybe some gaps that we're seeing between skills and qualifications? We want to look at that. We also want to get feedback from the sites to see, okay, are the candidates that we're bringing in, do they have the skills and qualifications that are desired? Because if we're not maybe matching, maybe we got to go back and look at our job descriptions to see maybe our job descriptions aren't accurate, right? Our qualifications aren't bringing in the right candidate. So we got to maybe work backwards and look at that. The other thing we want to look at is source effectiveness. So I know people kind of already mentioned that, looking at where we're getting the best candidates and being more strategic and targeting our recruitment towards that. And then for the next slide, we want to use all that data that we're gathering, feedback from staff throughout the year, surveys from candidates that we're getting, and continually look at what we're doing, reflecting, modifying our strategies based on the trends that we're seeing. We want to consistently update job descriptions. I know from experience in my district, we use the same job description year after year after year, right? There's no updating or really looking at what we need to change because, you know, cultures change, right? As we get different administrators, missions change, we want to make sure that those things are still clearly being articulated in our job descriptions. We also want to use those surveys and feedback to evaluate our professional development every year, right? Not offering the same PD every single year. We want to make sure that we're using data to inform the stuff that we're creating. And then we want to double down again on those high yield sources, use the data to look at, you know, the people that we're retaining, right? Where are they coming from? The people, where are the good candidates coming from that we're retaining that are actually giving us results and making our district better? And then so I think I'm passing it back to Erica.
Yeah, okay, so before we wrap it up, I know we got a lot of info from lots of groups, so we're gonna do a quick little Kahoot exit ticket for you, a little fun think fast and see who's got the best recruitment and hiring instincts in the room. You guys ready? All right. All right, so go ahead and scan that code, and then there's your game pin there. Charity, feel free to kind of jump in. You have the Kahoot open. All right, there you go.
I think we can take up to 15 people max. So after 15 is probably not going to allow you, which is fine.
There's some good nicknames in there.
I like. I'm gonna let you one. All right, you guys ready? Oh, I think there's. All right, here we go.
Okay, most people got the right answer, which is administration.
All right, Megan, hold your title. All right, Megan. All the above. Megan, you're holding strong. What recruitment practice best fits applicant expectations today? Last one, let's see. Nice job. Everyone got that one. Oh, third, Ed winner. Congratulations. Megan. Oh, Diana. Congratulations. Awesome job. All right. Nice job. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Questions or comments for this group? Yes, Luis. I think, yeah, oh, I couldn't tell if you were clapping or.
I'm both clapping
Okay.
and excited to ask a question. No, or what I really appreciated is the inclusion of the professional development part. I think Arlene, you said it's like this is part of the retention, right? It's like, how can we modify the type of professional developments that we're supporting folks that are already in our system so they're not receiving the same thing over and over again, right? So just want to shout out that inclusion. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Luis. I got 2 comments. If you're in a K-12 system, you need to know, and you're involved with recruiting and selecting, you need to know who the directors are of all the teacher ed programs within 50 miles. You have to have a relationship with them. Not just know that Dave Cash is the program director for the USC TEP program, but that you've met me, we've had lunch together or coffee, or you've met me in my office, or you've invited me to come to your school or district or ed organization and see what the work is. That you could text me. It's huge. I really like the idea of transparency around salary benefits, which is fairly typical. But what's not typical is the third thing you mentioned, and that's advancement opportunities. Also really important to be there. And then checking for systemic exclusion. Yes, 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 yes. Check job descriptions, applications, requirements, etc. Good job. All right, let's go. Brandy, Alejandro, Jasmine, and Luis.
All right. Hey everyone. So here's our recruitment plan. And so shout out Brandy, Alejandro, and Jasmine Rose for this. I also want to make sure that we highlight that Alejandro is not here because his son is graduating today. And so let's not gloss over the fact of graduations and all the good things that are happening with our communities at this time of year. So shout out to Alejandro and his family. And so our recruitment plan is really exactly what a lot of folks are talking about, is that in the case study, we are presented with something that is a reaction to a problem, and we want to become more intentional in our approach so that we minimize that reaction. And so I think some of the things that folks already talked about and discussed is being able to use metrics to identify what areas that we're already successful in, right? Because this idea of retention of good people is part of the issue that we have to solve for. So what are the metrics that we need to do to identify what areas are successful? Here in this kind of these circles, right, that are expanding out is like the district core and the people here are at the center, and all the other rings are what needs to be included in this plan, right? When we're talking about the talent pipeline, where do we actually recruit from, and then the awareness, broader community awareness. When we talk about an intentional plan, we're also talking about who are the people that need to be involved, right? Like from parents, from admin, so that back to what Dr. Cash said, and a lot of you all have lifted up, that we're making an intentional plan that involves a variety of people that doesn't just rely on human resources to solve this problem. Right. And so one of the things that we lifted up is also engaging in a continuous improvement cycle, right? When we talk about metrics, if we wait till the end to see if we were successful, we missed opportunities along the way to see how we're doing when it comes to success, so that the end is not a mystery. And so what are the metrics specifically that we're looking at? Potentially, what's the applicant pool look like? the turnover trends, longevity, and so on and so forth. And so the rest of this presentation is about our team, then identifying what would a team look like when it comes to their district approach to who they're looking for. And then we're going to put you through a real life experience to see if our approach is yielding the type of candidates that we want. So I'll hand that over to Jasmine.
Thank you, Luis. So on our next slide, we just really wanted to make sure that we pointed out the importance of which day one vacancies matter the most. So from a school site leadership perspective, a vacancy on the first day of school, it's not just an HR issue. It immediately becomes an instructional issue and a student and family experience issue. So like if a math, science, and special education bus driver, clerical position goes unfilled, then students and families are definitely going to feel that gap right away. So as a committee, our plan is really about protecting the instructional core, strengthening school culture, and strengthening trust with our students and families by making recruitment proactive. That is our word of the day for our group, is proactive recruitment instead of reactive recruitment. So we're not only asking who has the strongest resume, we're also asking like who's qualified, who fits our community, who can grow here, and very extremely importantly, who is likely to stay, because we all know that stability affects absolutely everything throughout the entire school district. So retention is not only about selecting the right person, it's also about making sure that the hiring school community has the support resources and conditions needed to retain and empower that employee. Too many school communities unintentionally cause their employees to wilt through lack of support, unclear expectations, weak onboarding, or unsustainable working conditions. And then they wonder why veteran staff are unhappy or not delivering high quality experiences that students and their families deserve. And so we're just kind of talking about like in the instructional core, vacancies disrupt routines, IEPs, and trust. In access and operations, bus and clerical gaps affect attendance, customer service, safety, and communication. And then from our retention lens, select candidates, we're going to try to select candidates to grow, fit the community, and again, stay to ensure that the school has the supports, resources, and conditions needed to retain and empower them. And then on the next slide, we're going to go ahead and just give you a few key reminders for our hiring committee. So we're going to be making sure that we're looking for the best long-term fit, not just the strongest resume. Our strategy here is really going to emphasize building a sustainable talent pipeline and retaining our employees. So we're going to make sure that we're considering which candidate is most likely to grow and stay with the district. We're going to consider both qualifications and potential, so highlighting leadership development, certification pathways, professional growth opportunities. We're looking for a candidate with strong potential, but it may not even necessarily be the one that has the most experience. We're going to value relationships, references, and community connections. So trusted referrals, previous district experience, partnerships with universities, as Luis mentioned, professional networks, and important. Focusing on retention factors, asking which candidates are most likely to thrive in the position based on their career goals, commitment to education, willingness to learn, and what fits with our district support systems. And finally, using evidence-based decision-making. So our strategy is stressing analyzing data and outcomes. So during this activity we're about to do, we're going to make sure that we're using the same criteria for all of our candidates. And then I'm going to pass it over to Brandy.
Yes, thank you, Jasmine. All right, guys. So now that we have identified a recruitment plan and we have some strategies in place, we are going to ask you to join our team to identify the best candidate. So right now on the screen, there are 3 candidates, and I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer, and you are going to get the chance to read about each candidate. And then once the 2.5 minutes are up, in the chat box, you are going to identify which candidate you would want to hire. And you could just put 1, 2, 3, or you can also type something like a sentence behind it, because I am going to call on a few of you to share. Hopefully we'll have some people who want to share, but if not, I will call on you. And while you're reading it and making your decision, make sure you think about why you made that decision and have some evidence to support why. Think about all of the strategies we've heard tonight and really think about which candidate would fit best. All right, so 2.5 minutes are about to start now. So make sure you read each candidate, and I will let you know when the 2.5 minutes are up so you can put your decision in the chat box.
And like Brandy said, we gave our strategy, but again, we've heard a lot of presentations. So if you have something that you would like to add that came from your presentation, please do.
About 1 minute and 30 seconds left. As you start choosing, you can put them in the chat box. And remember, you can put a little something with it of why you chose them. About 40 seconds left. Ten seconds. So you guys can start. I see some people have already started putting them in the chat. So you can start putting them in the chat. All right, that was our timer. So I see I see a lot of different ones. If you chose candidate 1 and would like to share, you can unmute or use the raise hand feature. Or if you chose any one and would like to share, 1, 2, or 3.
I chose candidate 1 because even though they're a new teacher and kind of like fresh out of school, they do have a little bit of background experience and seem to have skills that show that they're willing to learn and adapt. And sometimes when you're getting a new teacher into a school site, it's nice to have somebody that you could kind of like train up to what you're looking for and but won't necessarily like be looking to move on to leadership positions in the next few years like candidate 3.
Thank you, Sage. Susan?
Yeah, I also picked candidate 1 because he or she may have less experience, but is willing to learn, it sounds like, and also utilizing data for their teaching, and also having a strong relationship with like the students and the family. I think that's important, especially in elementary level. And she or he has the qualifications, it looks like, although I'm not really familiar with what the qualifications are for K to 12, so sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Did anyone choose 2 or 3 that would like to share out? I see someone said 3, but they'd want to check references because why are you leaving? It's a good question. But maybe they don't have any roles for her to grow in. So it's kind of like how Sage was saying, like it kind of depends on the whole situation and what you're looking for. Because if in the next few years a school is looking for an instructional specialist and I can get this teacher to come teach for a few years until I can move her, I would be looking for candidate number 3. Or if I was looking for a really great math teacher, I would be looking for candidate 2. So it kind of just depends what you're looking for, what your mission is, what the school's culture is. It kind of depends on a lot of different factors. So there wasn't a right or wrong answer. So I appreciate you guys for sharing. It really comes down to just making sure that we're establishing a continuous improvement cycle, as we all have been talking about. Ensuring that when we are about to hire, that we're collecting all of the data to make an informed decision, making sure that we're analyzing our hiring and retention trends, and consistently adjusting and refining recruitment strategies so that we can have an effective recruitment system. So thank you guys for participating, and if you have any questions or feedback.
Good job. Questions, comments?
Actually, I was just curious.
Go ahead, Susan.
Out of curiosity, is there, because I don't know anything about K through 12, um, is there like a probationary period when a teacher gets hired? How long is it? And just curious, I guess, how long the
2
probationary
years.
period is. 2 years? Wow.
We had a bit of a conversation around this when we talked about this. Also, like the way that hiring process is in California, where like you're last one in, first one out, right? It's like it creates this system where people get pink slipped, right? Which is like you are not returning for next year in March, and then the state approves the budget sometime in April. So there's this like 6 week window where people are like, I'm out of a job, I have to go seek a job, right? And so this window is one of the windows that we were talking about, being proactively engaged in how are we going to keep real good new people when it comes to this process that is super, it's faulty by just like that, what I'm saying. And then back to what Dr. Cash says, like probationary is two years, right? So you're in this kind of like limbo for 2 years until you actually get some job stability.
Yeah, LIFO, last in, first out is crazy. And the rules around permanency are also crazy. So, yeah, it's too many cooks were in the kitchen around that to come up with something that makes sense. My couple of comments really briefly were the fact that you recognize parents should be involved in recruiting. We often think parents are not they don't know what they're doing, but they know not just people, but they often know the right people to do the work that needs to be done. It's incredible how often in a K-12 world we just blow right by parents' input on stuff. And then the other comment I would make is always recognizing how important relationships are. That's just so important. All right. Our last group, because it's the best group, is Veronica, Liz, Susan, Yang, Thaddeus, Ernest, and Daniela. So who's gonna share their screen? All right, Ernest. Yes, sir.
So sorry you guys can't see me. I'm like crying on the way home. But it's been like almost 5 years, like how ABC University has not hired like a single full-time professor in over half a decade, creating critical talent gaps in structured training. As you guys could see, like the chart, like 50% like tender track for priorities credit fund research, and 56 as um each device for divides 71 current full-time professors. Clear instruction operate splits exist with both factors believing their core focus is more important to the university mission. And the last one is like the provost task. The School of Education is higher So comparing from one tenure faculty to a full, like half-time faculty. Next slide.
So following the equity first faculty hiring roadmap that we just kind of just showed you all, the workforce planning just begins by identifying institutional needs. So at ABC University, there is a clear, as we can see, there is that clear imbalance, between the tenure track faculty who primarily focus on research, and then the RTPC faculty who carry most of the teaching and the advising responsibilities. And so, stop. Sorry, my daughter. Sorry. So we do, to address these needs, we do, propose hiring the two complementary positions. And so within this which is consistent with the roadmap, we have decided to use a dual level search committee. And so the first level will screen the candidates, while the second level will conduct final interviews and make hiring recommendations. And ultimately, this approach, it does help us hire faculty who not only fill these workforce gaps, but also strengthen collaboration between research, teaching, and supporting the overall mission of the university. We also want to just encourage that we will recruit broadly, just to ensure that we attract this diverse and highly qualified pool of candidates. And so we want to encourage, the use of, advertising on higher education job boards, using professional associations and academic networks, targeting diverse candidate pools, because our goal is to attract highly qualified applicants. Next slide. So with that being said, we do want to mandate this equity narrative. And so the equity narrative will allow us to assess each candidate's commitment to equity, inclusion, and student success. And so this will allow for candidates to submit, the equity narrative. We'll be able to demonstrate this commitment to diversity and inclusion. And then we'll be able to experience supporting student success as well. And this will just allow us to be able to evaluate more traditional credentials. All right, next slide.
All right, this recommendation focuses on targeted recruitment because a one-size-fits-all advertising strategy is unlikely to attract the strongest and most diverse candidates pool. We select different channels for the tenure track and RTPC positions because those candidates typically engage with different professional networks. So on the left for tenure track position, I recommend the like AR Career Center and Higher Ed Jobs, LinkedIn, and professional conferences, because these platforms are widely used by active researchers, scholars, and they provide the national visibility and access to candidates with a strong research publications and the grants potentials as well. But for RTPC positions, we recommend Higher Ed Job as well, and LinkedIn, state and national education associations as well. And also we recommend alum networks and practitioner organizations as well. These channels are more effective for reaching experienced educators and the practitioners who bring expertise in teaching, advising student success, or the community engagement. By intentionally match recruitment channels to the goal of each positions, university can expand its reach and attract highly qualified candidates from diverse background. Next, please.
Hi, so I'm going to be talking about the application and review process. So it's important to have a strong collaboration and strategically partner with HR, as they can help with the vigorous and the comprehensive job analysis for the position, and then also collect some robust sets of data of the candidate. And it can also better assist with the prediction of post-hire performances. HR can also help with the pre-screening selection using instruments such as a hiring rubric. Also important to decentralize the hiring process to the school site level, which the personnel or the professors that are in the institution are more aware of the local needs of the school and also determine which candidate would be a good fit. It also increases the buy-in from the school level personnel and increases the vested interest in the success of the hiring process. Also, having a EEO vetted committee with the independent applicant, maybe providing a equity narrative that allows us to see the candidate's commitment to equity, inclusion, and the student's success. And then step 3, maybe for the candidate to provide a example of their work samples, maybe a teaching demonstration, writing samples as such. Obviously, they have to have the necessary qualifications, the work experience, the credentials, by providing the resume, professional references, maybe college transcripts as well. And then, also having multiple measures of the candidate attributes, such as traditional information or data, such as the certification, teacher certification, maybe exam scores, undergraduate institution selectivity, their degree and what they majored in, but also the non-traditional attributes, such as their cognitive ability, their feelings of self-efficacy, personality traits, maybe college entrance scores, and the teacher selection instrument. And the final decision, again, we would utilize the level 2 committee interviews, and then diligently check references, so on and so forth. Next slide, please.
And then I'll be going over maintaining transparent internal communication. And so how will we communicate with the department colleagues regarding the searches? And so we communicate. So one of the things we decided was to have a committee liaison, designating a POC that provides kind of a team report for the department colleagues. Some of the other steps that we came up with was utilizing effective communication channels by providing transparency through emails, messages, marketing platforms, social media, and then also ensuring that there's a timestamp by providing the data that's also available per platform. And then we also want to make sure that we're communicating the deadlines per each
part of the process, just so that we can ensure that everyone is informed and also included. And then we also wanted to make sure that we're utilizing our management structure by ensuring that there's clear communication from top to bottom and vice versa. What's working, what needs to be improved, and then also discussing possible solutions that may become challenging and how we can come up with different resolutions for those. And then also just requesting feedback from our internal staff and referrals or anything that is going to be applicable for the hiring. And then ensuring that the team is aware of any updates, hires, and then also when it closes, because that's also something that's really important to have communicated. Next slide.
Uh-oh. Well, somebody want to jump in since she doesn't appear to be here?
She's back. She's back.
Okay.
Wait. Wait, no. Oh my gosh.
I see Veronica.
Okay, can everybody hear me now? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, so tracking diversity and efficiency metrics. So what does the applicant pool demographics look like? So we're going to assess the diversity of the applicants by race, ethnicity, gender, and other relevant characteristics. We're also going to compare applicants' demographics to the university, diverse goals, and the availability or of the job market. We're going to evaluate whether the recruitment strategies are attracting a broad and qualified pool of candidates. So the time to fill now. So we're going to measure the number of days between positions posting and candidates acceptance. We're also going to identify the potential delays in the recruitment and hiring process, and also compare the time to fill data with previous faculty searches and institutional benchmarks. And so now the interview to offer ratio. So we're going to calculate the number of candidates interviewed relative to the number of received offers, but also we're going to assess the effectiveness of the screening selections procedures. And then we're also going to determine whether the applicant pool is producing the candidates who closely match the positions and with the qualifications.
All right, great. Good job. Any questions, comments for our last group? Yeah. Well, Diana had her hand up and then took it. Oh no, she's applauding.
I meant to clap, my bad.
Okay, all right, that's good. Clapping is always good. I had two comments then, if no one else is. Do you guys have an example of what an equity narrative looks like? Got it. Okay. So it could be just an open-ended prompt with the application and then, okay, cool. Good. Um, Great job tonight, you guys. Super, super well done. Any final questions or comments or thoughts moving forward from anyone? All right. Well, appreciate the hard work. I learned a lot. It was great. Hopefully the exercise was important and helpful for you in thinking about how you might work with recruiting and selecting candidates. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Everybody fight on. Take care. Be safe. Take care of each other and take care of yourself. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Thanks, Dr. Cash.
Thank you.
Thank you.